The rain didn't just fall, it attacked. It came down in solid gray sheets, turning the winding two-lane blacktop of North Carolina's coastal Route 17 into a slick, treacherous river. For Clara, it was the miserable cherry on a miserable Sunday. A 14-hour shift as a vet tech, wrestling a panicked German shepherd and assisting in a grim, failed equine surgery, had left her hollowed out. Now, all she wanted was to get home to her 5-year-old son, asleep at her sister's house. Her 200-year-old Toyota Camry, which she'd affectionately named the Chariot, short for Chariot of Fire, as she suspected it might burst into flames at any moment, was struggling. The windshield wipers, fighting a losing battle, thwacked a frantic, offbeat rhythm against the deluge. She was 30 years old, a single mom, and perpetually 3 payments behind on something. Tonight, it was everything. She rounded a blind curve, tires spitting water, and that's when she saw it, a set of taillights high off the ground where no taillights should be. They weren't just ahead, they were above. A fraction of a second later, a black, non-commercial grade SUV, the kind that looks like it belongs to the Secret Service, all sharp angles and tinted menace, shot across her high beams. It was hydroplaning. Time seemed to stretch, thickening into a heavy, slow syrup. She watched, frozen, as the vehicle's rear end swung wide, the tires screaming a useless, high-pitched shriek that was instantly swallowed by the storm. The SUV kissed the guardrail, a brief, violent spray of orange sparks, and then it was gone. It didn't just drive off the road, it launched into the black void, vanishing down the steep, wooded embankment. A sickening percussion of snapping trees and a final, definitive metal-on-earth crunch followed. Then silence. Just the rain. "No, no, no, no," Clara whispered, slamming on her brakes. The Chariot shimmied, threatening to follow its predecessor before sliding to a stop on the gravel shoulder. "Call 911. She did. Her hands, slick with a mixture of dog treat residue and cold sweat, fumbled with her cracked screen phone. 911, what is your emergency?" "A crash, a car and SUV. It went off the road. Route 17, just past the old Cypress marker. Mile 83, maybe?" She was breathing too fast. "It went into the woods. It's bad. It's really bad." "Ma'am, calm down. A unit is being dispatched. Do not approach the vehicle. I repeat, do not approach." Clara stared into the darkness. The line clicked, the dispatcher gone. Do not approach. It was sound advice. The sane advice. She was alone on a dark road in a storm. She should wait. But from her time at the clinic, she knew about the golden hour. She knew what shock did. She knew what it looked like when an animal was bleeding out internally. The man in that SUV, he was an animal, just a different species. Damn it! She threw the car in park, hit her hazards, and grabbed the one useful thing she owned, a small, dim yellow flashlight. It was probably 20 years old, the beam a pathetic, watery cone of light. "Against all common sense," she muttered, kicking open her door. The mud on the embankment was a living thing. It sucked at her cheap sneakers, threatening to pull her down. Rain plastered her hair to her face. "Hello?" she yelled. "Can you hear me?" Nothing. She slid, more than climbed, down the 20-foot drop, the beam of her light bouncing wildly. The SUV was on its side, wedged between two thick pines. The engine was smoking, a thick, acrid cloud that mingled with the overwhelming, terrifying stench of gasoline. This was a bad idea. A really bad idea. Her light found the driver's side window. The glass was gone. Inside, a man was folded over the steering wheel, unmoving. He was huge. Even in the dim light, she could see the breadth of his shoulders, the thick column of his neck. Sir, can you hear me?" She scrambled onto the side of the vehicle, the metal slick and hot. She reached in, pressing 2 fingers to his neck, just like she'd been taught with the big dogs. A pulse. Thready, but there. His breathing was a shallow, wet rattle. Internal bleeding. Shock. The dashboard was crumpled, the steering column pinning him. The cabin was a wreck of high-tech gear she didn't recognize. Shattered screens, wires. Okay, we're gonna get you out." She pulled on the bent door frame. It was jammed. She pulled again, adrenaline surging, a raw scream tearing from her throat as she put her entire 130-pound frame into it. The metal groaned but didn't budge. She saw his seatbelt still buckled. From her pocket, she pulled her Leatherman, the multi-tool she used for everything from opening feed bags to trimming hooves. She sawed through the thick nylon webbing. The man's dead weight slumped against her, his head lolling. He smelled of rain, metal, and something else. Ozone. Come on, big guy, work with me. She couldn't get the door open. He was trapped. The gasoline smell was getting stronger. The engine ticked and hissed. This was it. He was going to die here, and maybe she would too. Think, Clara. Think like a vet. When a horse was trapped in a stall you didn't pull, you leveraged. She saw it. His left arm was free. She could pull him, but the wheel was in the way. She had to get in. She shoved her shoulders through the shattered window, grimacing as a shard of glass bit into her arm. She got her hands under his armpits, bracing her feet on the inside of the roof. 1, 2, 3. Pull! She heaved, using her legs, her back, everything she had. He was an anchor. He didn't move. I am not dying. Here, she screamed at him, or at the world. She tried again. He slid. 1 inch. 2 inches. His torso was coming free of the wheel. Yes, yes, come on! She was halfway out of the window, dragging his dead weight with her. She was on the ground now, in the mud, pulling him clear of the wreckage. He was halfway out. His legs were still in, but his chest and head were free. That's when the universe decided to collect its payment. The unstable SUV, resting on a bed of mud and pine needles, shifted. It was a small movement, a settling of its massive weight, but it was enough. The heavy B-pillar and the mangled roof, the very things she'd braced against, slid 2 feet down and sideways. It landed directly on her left leg, which was still braced against a fallen, moss-covered log. She didn't hear the sound so much as feel it. A wet, percussive, definitive crack that seemed to come from her bones and the log at the same time. It didn't hurt, not at first. It was just a profound, sickening wrongness. Then the pain arrived. It was not a normal sensation. It was a white-hot, electric, all-consuming everything. It was a fire that burned away her name, her son, the rain. She screamed, a sound she didn't recognize as her own, but the scream gave her one last final burst of adrenaline. She looked at the man. He was clear, but sparks. From the engine bay, a small, hungry orange flicker. The gasoline. No! With her one good leg, she kicked. She shoved the man's torso with her hands. Get off! He rolled, a deadweight tumble, away from the SUV. He was clear. A whoosh. A blast of heat and light slammed her back, singeing her hair. The SUV's engine block was a fireball. Clara lay in the mud, leg pinned, bleeding, her own screams echoing in her ears. Beside her, just out of the fire's reach, the man she'd saved was still breathing. She saw the flash of blue and red lights at the top of the embankment. The first sirens, which she had called an eternity just 10 minutes ago, wailed in the distance. He's here, she whispered to the muddy ground, and then the white-hot pain mercifully dissolved into black. The first thing Clara registered was the smell, bleach and floor wax, with a sour undercurrent of sickness and stale coffee. The second was the sound, a rhythmic, insistent beep that she knew, instinctively, was a very bad sign. She opened her eyes. The world was a blurry, fluorescent-lit hell. A man in gray scrubs was looking at a monitor above her head, not at her. My leg, she managed. Her throat felt like it was full of sand. The man, his face a mask of profound exhaustion, glanced down. He looked like he hadn't slept in a week. You're at Onslow County General. You were in an accident. I wasn't... I pulled him. Yeah, we got the report. He sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. Dr. Baines will be in to talk to you. Try not to move. You're lucky. Lucky. The word hung in the air, cold and heavy. Dr. Baines, when he arrived, was no more cheerful. He held up an X-ray film to the light, a ghostly, shattered image of her tibia and fibula. Ma'am, this is a severe compound fracture. The tibia broke through the skin. We've stabilized you, cleaned the wound as best we could, but you're lucky you didn't lose the foot. The fire department had to use the jaws of life to get that car roof off you. His tone wasn't congratulatory. It was weary, annoyed. The man I pulled out, she rasped. Is he the John Doe? He's in ICU, coma, multiple internal injuries. You're lucky you didn't paralyze him. Clara blinked. What? Moving an accident victim with potential spinal injuries? You should have waited for the EMTs. You could have been killed. You could have made his injuries 1,000 times worse. He said it so casually, as if scolding a child for spilling milk. He didn't see the fire. He didn't smell the gasoline. He was just a tired man in a white coat, looking at her like she was a problem. Rage bait number 1. The first cut. Not thank you. Not you're a hero. But you did it wrong. There was fire, she whispered, but he was already scribbling on a chart. He was replaced an hour later by a different kind of authority. Ma'am, Deputy Evans? He was a classic. Overstuffed uniform, mirrored sunglasses, which he kept on inside. Chewing a wad of gum like it owed him money. Gonna ask you a few questions, Clara. You mind if I call you Clara? He didn't wait for an answer. So you were at the scene. You called it in. Yes, I saw the SUV go off the road. I pulled him out. Right. Him. The John Doe. Big fella. Evans flipped a page on his notepad. Thing is, that vehicle, it's unusual. No plates. VIN number seems to be corrupted. He leaned in, his voice dropping. You see any weapons in the car? Drugs? Suitcases full of cash? Clara's mouth fell open. What? No, I was trying to save him. Right. Save him. Evans's gum chewing intensified. Just seems odd, don't it? A man with no ID in a military-grade truck crashes on a back road and you just happen to be right there? Why were you following him, Clara? I wasn't following him. He passed me, then he crashed. Uh-huh, he scribbled. You realize you contaminated a potential investigation scene, right? By pulling him out? Your fingerprints are all over everything. We can't get a clean pull off the wreckage. Rage bait number 2. He wasn't just blaming her, he was implying she was a suspect, a potential accomplice. She, a single mom who collected for the local animal shelter. I want a lawyer, she said, the words tasting like ash. Evans snorted. You're not under arrest, sweetheart. Yet. We'll be in touch. He left, and the adrenaline that had been holding her together crashed. She was alone, in pain, and now, a criminal? The John Doe in the ICU was a ghost. No wallet, no ID, no phone. The nurses just shrugged. He was a non-person. Clara's sacrifice felt untethered, a stupid, pointless act that had cost her. She didn't even know how much yet. But she was about to find out. The next visitor didn't wear scrubs or a uniform. She wore a sharp navy blue pantsuit, a smile that didn't reach her eyes, and a laminated ID badge that read, Ms. Albright, Patient Financial Services. She was all sharp angles and the faint, unsettling scent of expensive hairspray. Ms. Kincaid, Clara, good afternoon. Her voice was a high, thin, artificial chirp. I'm just here to clear up some of the billing paperwork. We're so glad you're recovering. Okay, Clara said, her leg throbbing in its new temporary cast. Ms. Albright clicked her pen. Now we ran your insurance on file. It appears you have a catastrophic plan. Is that correct? It's what I can afford, Clara mumbled. Of course. Albright's smile tightened by a millimeter. Well, as I'm sure you're aware, catastrophic means a very, very high deductible. $10,000 in your case. Which, I'm afraid, has not been met. What does that mean? It means, Ms. Albright said, her tone shifting from fake nice to brick wall polite, that your emergency transport, your ER admittance, the blood work, the x-rays, the stabilization, and your multi-day stay are your responsibility. She slid a clipboard onto Clara's lap tray. The numbers at the bottom made Clara's vision swim. $28,000? That's not possible. Oh, that's just for the admittance. That doesn't include the surgery. Surgery? Yes. The reconstructive surgery you'll need to put pins in the tibia to make sure you can, walk again. She said it with the same cheer as if she were offering her a cup of tea. But I saved that man, Clara said, her voice cracking. This was a mistake. This was all a horrible mistake. Ms. Albright's smile became a thin, pitying line. That's very noble of you, Ms. Kincaid. Truly. She tapped the clipboard essays. But your financial responsibility is not noble. It's contractual. We will require a payment plan or a substantial down payment before we can schedule that surgery. Until then, well, we'll just keep you comfortable. Rage bait number 3. The full, crushing, metaphorical weight of the system. Life-altering debt. Withholding care. All delivered with a smile and a click of a pen. Clara felt the B-pillar of the SUV all over again. Only this time, it was pressing on her chest and she couldn't breathe. The next morning, the sun, a watery, indifferent gray, filtered through the grimy window of her new room. They had moved her from the private ER bay to a grim, shared room on the 3rd floor. Her roommate was a woman named Mildred, who seemed to be in her 80s and communicated exclusively through a series of hacking coughs and loud, disapproving humph sounds. A thin beige curtain, stained with God knows what, was the only privacy Clara had. Her leg throbbed. It was a deep, pulsing, foundational ache that the low-grade Tylenol they'd given her didn't even touch. When she'd buzzed the nurse's station to ask for something stronger, a tired-looking aide named Cheryl had sighed. The doctor only approved Tylenol 3, honey. We can't just hand out the good stuff. When Clara protested that she was in agony, Cheryl had lowered her voice. Look, word's out, your payment pending. They're not going to waste a high-cost pain med on a non-guaranteed account. Just try to sleep. But sleep wouldn't come. Around 10 a.m., Deputy Evans returned. This time, he wasn't alone. With him was a man who seemed to suck all the color and warmth out of the room. He was in a cheap, ill-fitting gray suit with a pale, pockmarked face and eyes that were as flat and lifeless as stones. He looked, Clara thought, like a walking filing cabinet. Clara, Evans said, foregoing any pleasantries. This is Mr. Jones. He's from the Department of Transportation. DOT? Clara said, confused. Mr. Jones stepped forward. He didn't offer a hand. Ms. Kincaid, the vehicle you interfered with was government property, a DOT research vehicle. He was lying. Clara didn't know how she knew, but she knew. His voice was too flat, his excuse too bland. He was absolutely 100% not from the DOT. You had no authorization to approach that vehicle, Jones said, his dead eyes fixed on her. You had no clearance. By removing the occupant, you compromised a federal asset. The car was on fire. The vehicle had a top-of-the-line fire suppression system. It would have been fine. Clara's blood ran cold. He was saying she shouldn't have done it, that the man was less important than the truck. We need to know exactly what you saw, Ms. Kincaid, what you touched, Jones continued. Did you remove anything from the vehicle? A briefcase, a hard drive, a phone? No, I grabbed a Leatherman from my pocket to cut his seatbelt. That's it. A knife, Jones said, stating it as a fact. You approached the vehicle with a knife. It's a multi-tool. Ms. Kincaid, Deputy Evans cut in, suddenly brave with Mr. Jones at his back. Your story just doesn't add up. We're looking at trespassing, interference with a federal investigation, maybe even Theft. Theft? Clara was shaking now, a combination of rage, pain, and pure, undiluted terror. I'm the one who called 911. I'm the one who got crushed. Ma'am, your story is full of holes, Evan said, puffing up his chest. Right now, you're our only person of interest. We're impounding your vehicle as potential evidence. The chariot? It's a 20-year-old rust bucket. It's not evidence of anything. That'll be for the forensics team to decide. We'll be back. They left. The silence they left behind was heavy, suffocating. From the other side of the curtain, Mildred hacked. Police in a hospital. Disgraceful, making all that trouble. Clara's world, which had been fracturing, now just shattered. She was a criminal. They were taking her car. The one-eyed nurse's aide, Cheryl, popped her head in a few minutes later, her eyes wide with a nasty, gossipy curiosity. Heard the feds were in here, she whispered. What did you do, honey? Antagonism, social. The isolation was complete. She wasn't a hero. She wasn't even a patient. She was a problem, a piece of trash. The final blow, the coup de grace, was delivered, of course, by Ms. Albright. She returned at 3 p.m., not with a smile this time, but with a stack of paperwork and a look of grim, bureaucratic satisfaction. Ms. Kincaid, as we have not been able to secure a payment arrangement. I don't have any money, Clara cried. You can't get blood from a stone. An apt, if unhelpful, metaphor, Albright said, her voice like chipped ice. We are not a charity, Ms. Kincaid. We are a business. And since you cannot provide assurance of payment, we will be forced to stabilize your leg in a simple, non-weight-bearing cast and discharge you. Discharge me? Discharge me? I can't walk. I need surgery. You can follow up with a charity clinic in Jacksonville, Albright said, handing her a pamphlet. I'm sure they have a very long wait list, but they might be able to help you eventually. Just then, Dr. Baines, the weary ER doc, passed the doorway. He stopped, seeing the scene. Albright, what's this? This patient can't be discharged. Her leg needs to be pinned. It's a complex, unstable fracture. Albright turned to him, and for a second, Clara saw the shark behind the smile. This is a billing matter, doctor, not a medical one, she snapped. Your OR time is valuable, and we are not authorized to donate it. She's stable for discharge. Dr. Baines looked at Clara. He looked at Albright, he looked at the floor, and he walked away. He just walked away. Rage bait number 4, the peak, the doctor, her one last hope for a sane medical professional, had just let the billing administrator overrule him. The low point. Clara thought she had hit it. But there was one more rung on the ladder down. She used her last few dollars of credit on her phone to call her boss at the vet clinic. Brenda, it's Clara. Clara, where are you? You missed your shift. I was in an accident. My leg it's broken, badly. I'm at the hospital. I don't know when I can come back. I'll need surgery. A long, heavy sigh on the other end. Oh, Clara, this is a small business. You know that. I can't hold your job. We need someone who can be on their feet, lifting the heavy. I've already called the temp agency. Brenda, please. I'm sorry, Clara, I just can't. The line clicked. She was fired. So, let's recap. In the last 36 hours, Clara Kincaid had saved a man's life. In return, she had been crippled, accused of being a liar by a doctor, accused of being a criminal by the police, threatened by a diot spook, fired from her job, had her car impounded, been denied medical care, and was now facing a 6-figure bill she had no way to pay. Ms. Albright left the discharge papers on her tray. A transport van will be here in the morning. Good luck, Ms. Kincaid. They hadn't even given her the good stuff, just a prescription for low-grade Tylenol and a discharge notice. Clara Kincaid finally did what she hadn't done since the crash. She put her face in his, the thin, starchy hospital pillow, and she wept. Morning came. Not a new, hopeful morning, but a gray, humid, mocking continuation of the day before. Clara hadn't slept. The pain in her leg had settled into a deep, grinding, nauseating rhythm, a constant reminder of the shattered bone and the denied surgery. The transport van, she was told, would be arriving at 9 a.m. to take her to where? Her sister's one-bedroom apartment? A homeless shelter? She didn't know. She was packing. It was a pathetic sight. Her few possessions, a cracked phone, a Leatherman, a set of keys to a car that was no longer hers, were being put into her blood and mud-stained backpack. She was trying to figure out how to put a sock over her crudely cast, throbbing leg. The cast itself was an insult, a thick, lumpy, plaster of Paris monstrosity that felt like it had been applied by a high school art class. She was crying, not the loud, desperate sobs of the night before, but silent, hot, angry tears of pure frustration. She couldn't even put on her own damn sock. She was broken. They had broken her. The door to her room opened. She didn't look up, just swiped at her face. "The van's not here yet, Cheryl. Give me a minute." "Ma'am?" The voice was not Cheryl's. It was a low, rumbly, and impossibly calm baritone. Clara looked up. The door was open, but she couldn't see the hallway. It was blocked. 6 men. They were not in uniform, but they were in uniform. They wore worn boots, dark jeans, and high-end, tactical-looking jackets, brands like Cry and Arc'teryx that Clara didn't recognize, but which radiated a quiet, terrifying expense. They were all in their 30s or 40s. They were all in peak physical condition. They were all silent. They radiated a competence that was so profound it was like a physical force in the room. The hospital hallway behind them, which was usually a cacophony of beeping carts and loud conversations, had gone completely, utterly silent. Even Mildred, on the other side of the curtain, had stopped coughing. One man stepped forward. He was older than the others, maybe mid-40s, some 80s, with a face that looked like it had been carved from granite and left out in the sun. His hair was a salt and pepper military buzz cut, and his eyes. His eyes had seen everything, and were impressed by none of it. "Ma'am," he said, his voice that same low rumble. "Are you Clara Kincaid?" Clara nodded, her throat suddenly dry. "My name is Stone. We've been looking for you." Just then, Ms. Albright, clipboard in hand, flustered into the room, pushing past one of the quiet, solid men. Excuse me. This is a discharge area. This patient is leaving. You can't be in here. This is a private—" She was babbling, the petty tyrant asserting her small, pathetic authority. Stone turned his head. He didn't turn his whole body, just his head. He looked at Ms. Albright. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't curse. He didn't have to. "This patient," he said, and his voice was now made of ice, "is not being discharged." "Now you listen here," Albright puffed up. "I am the head of—" Stone raised his hand, and in it was a black satellite phone, the kind you see in movies, with a thick antenna. "I am on a live call." "Hull," he said, his voice cutting through her bluster. "With the Surgeon General of the Navy. He is on a live call with the CEO of this hospital's parent company, Mr. Davies. You have 1 second to leave this room and send in the chief of orthopedics. Not Dr. Baines. The chief, Dr. Markov." Albright's face went from a splotchy, angry red to a waxy, pale white. She knew the CEO's name. She knew the chief of orthopedics' name. She saw his eyes. She saw the other 5 men who hadn't moved a muscle but were now all, very pointedly, looking at her. One of them was already at the John Doe's room down the hall, standing guard. Another was at the nurse's station, talking to a stunned, white-faced Deputy Evans, who had apparently just arrived. Albright's mouth opened and closed. No sound came out. She didn't walk out of the room. She vanished. She just evaporated. Stone turned back to Clara. His entire demeanor softened, the ice melting away instantly. "Ma'am, I apologize for the intrusion. Who, who are you? Clara whispered, clutching the sock. We're friends of the man you saved. He knelt, wincing slightly. He was now at her eye level. The man you saved is Master Chief Petty Officer Reaper Cade. He's my team leader of SEAL Team 6. Clara's brain tried and failed to process this. He woke up, Stone continued, about an hour ago. He can't talk much. He's got a tube in, but he can write. Stone reached into his jacket and pulled out a small waterproof notebook. He flipped to a page. Scrawled in a shaky but forceful hand were 3 lines. Crash, woman, flashlight, found me, pulled me, find her, fix her. He was, Stone said with a small, rare smile, very insistent. Fix her, he wrote, and then fix them. Fix them? Anyone who got in your way, ma'am. Stone stood up. A medic is on his way in, Doc, from our team. He's going to look at your chart. Then Dr. Markoff is going to come in and schedule your surgery for, he checked his watch. In about 45 minutes, you'll be moved to a private suite on the top floor. We don't leave people behind, Ms. Kincaid, not ever. A man with a shaved head and a tribal tattoo on his forearm stepped into the room, carrying a black Medicus bag. He nodded to Stone, then to Clara. Ma'am, I'm Doc. I'm just going to take a look at this cast. They put on you. He said the word cast like it was a personal insult. Clara just nodded, the tears starting again, but this time they weren't hot, angry, or frustrated. They were something else entirely. Clara's room, which moments before had been a beige pit of despair, was now a bustling command center. The air crackled with a quiet, lethal efficiency. The first reckoning was medical. Doc the team. Medic was unwrapping the lumpy plaster cast. Underneath, her leg was swollen, discolored, and angry. Doc took one look, his face darkening. This is borderline malpractice, he muttered. Just then, a hurried, terrified man in a crisp white coat with Dr. Markoff, Chief of Orthopedics, embroidered on the pocket, rushed in. I just heard. I'm Dr. Markoff. I am so... You're late, Doc said, not looking up. I'm looking at a non-stabilized, non-irrigated compound fracture that's been sitting for 36 hours. You have about... He glanced at his watch. 2 hours before we've got a serious systemic infection risk. What's your plan? Markoff, the chief, was white-faced. An OR now. We'll clean it, debride it, and I'll place an external fixator before we pin it. Good. Doc was already rewrapping the leg, this time with a professional clean wrap from his bag. I'll be in the OR with you, observing. The implication was clear. Don't mess this up. Dr. Markoff just nodded, sweating. The second reckoning was administrative. A different SEAL, a younger man with a laptop and a headset who looked more like a Silicon Valley fixer than a soldier, was in the corner by the window, on the phone. His name, Clara learned, was Ghost. He was the team's problem solver. And he was on the phone with a now sobbing Ms. Albright. No, Ms. Albright, you don't seem to understand. I'm not negotiating. His voice was pleasant, but with a core of pure steel. Let me be very clear. We are not paying the bill. You are writing off the bill in its entirety. As a gesture of goodwill, you are also writing off the next 3 surgeries, all post-operative care, and the physical therapy, which, by the way, will be conducted by a Navy specialist we're flying in from Bethesda. He paused, listening. No, I don't think you do understand. You see, Master Chief Cade wasn't just in a crash. He was transporting a high-value asset for the Department of Defense. Your administrative hurdles could be interpreted as obstruction of a matter of national security. That's a very serious phrase. And the penalty is a lot worse than a bad performance review. He smiled. Yes, I thought so. Now, one more thing. Your hospital will be donating $100,000 to the Navy SEAL Foundation as a gesture of goodwill for the profound emotional distress you caused a civilian national hero. Yes, I'll hold while you get your boss and tell him to bring his boss. The third reckoning was legal. Stone himself walked back into the hallway. Deputy Evans was still there, looking lost and pale. Mr. Jones, the DOT spook, was standing next to him, his arms crossed, trying to look menacing. It wasn't working. Stone ignored them both and walked past, pulling Clara's bed with Clara in it out of the room. "Where are you taking her?" Evans stammered. "To surgery," Stone said. "You're relieved, Deputy." "You can't just—" Stone stopped. He turned. He handed Evans his satellite phone. "This is Senator Burr. He'd like to discuss the harassment of his constituent. He'd also like to know why your department is impounding the car of a good Samaritan." Evans' face went slack. He took the phone as if it were a live snake. Stone then turned to Mr. Jones. "You," he said. "I'm from the Department of Transportation," Jones blustered. "You're from a 3-letter agency that just lost a very expensive package because your driver wasn't cleared for high-speed evasion. You're an internal investigator, and you're in my way. You don't have the authority." Stone's face was inches from Jones's. "The man she saved, he's Tier 1. That gives me all the authority I need. You will be on a C-130 out of Pope Air Force Base on your way to a new, exciting assignment in a black site in Alaska by sundown. Get out of my hospital." Jones, for the first time, looked afraid. He turned, and he and Evans scattered. Stone turned back to Clara, who was being wheeled toward the elevators, Doc at her side. Her head was spinning. "Ma'am," Stone said, walking with her, "the team and Reaper's family. We have a fund for this. We don't leave people behind." He handed her a small, black, brand-new smartphone. "This is your new phone. The number is linked to a lawyer, ours. He has already paid your rent for the next year. He has also filed a wrongful termination suit against your former boss at the vet clinic. He expects a very, very quick settlement." My car. Your chariot has been recycled as evidence," Stone said, a ghost of a smile playing on his lips. "A new one, a nice, safe 24 Subaru, is in the parking lot. The keys are in an envelope on your new nightstand. Top floor." They reached the elevator. "Get some sleep, Clara," Stone said, hitting the up button. "When you wake up, Reaper wants to thank you himself." When Clara woke up, it was to the smell of fresh-cut flowers, not bleach. Sunlight, real, warm, unfiltered sunlight, was streaming into a room that looked more like a high-end hotel suite than a hospital. The beeping was gone. The pain, while still present, was a dull, manageable thrum. Her leg was elevated, encased in a new, high-tech, lightweight cast. A nurse, a new one, kind-eyed and professional, was checking her IV. "Welcome back, Ms. Kincaid. The surgery went perfectly. Dr. Markov said it was textbook. How are you feeling?" I feel—" Clara couldn't find the word. "Safe," a voice from the doorway said. She turned. The door was open, and Master Chief Reaper Cade was being wheeled in, a nurse pushing his chair. He was bruised, his arm in a sling, and he looked like he'd been hit by a truck, which, Clara supposed, he had. But he was awake. His eyes, a startlingly sharp blue, were locked on her. The entire team, Stone, Doc, Ghost, and the other 3, were with him, standing at the back of the room, a quiet, solid wall of support. Reaper wheeled himself the last few feet. He was not a man of many words. He just looked at her, his face a mixture of pain, gratitude, and a kind of fierce, profound respect. He held out his good hand. Clara took it. "Heard you had to deal with Albright," he rasped, his voice rough. "I'd rather face a firefight." Clara laughed. It was a watery, broken sound, but it was a laugh. "You saved me," he said, his voice dropping. No joke this time. "The truck was compromised. It was going to burn. You stayed." "So did you," she whispered. That's my job, ma'am. He squeezed her hand. This, this wasn't yours. You're a damn hero. Clara looked around the room, at the stack of paid-for legal documents on her nightstand, at the keys to her new car, at the new phone already buzzing with a text from her lawyer. Settlement accepted. Congratulations. She realized the rage she had felt. It was the symptom of a system that was designed to punish the powerless, to crush the individual. It was a system that ran on fear and paperwork, wielded by petty tyrants like Albright and Evans. The inspiration, she realized, was standing right in front of her. It was the knowledge that even in that system, one single, selfless, insane act of courage, a tired mom scrambling down a muddy hill with a cheap flashlight, could be powerful enough to summon an army. Stone stepped forward. "Ma'am," he said, "the team, we wanted to give you this." He pressed a heavy metal coin into her palm. It was dark, brushed bronze with the team's insignia on one side and an intricate skull-like design on the other. A challenge coin. "We don't give these to civilians, ever." "What? What is it?" "It means your family," Stone said, his voice thick with an emotion she hadn't heard before. "It means if you are ever in a jam, if you ever need anything, you call the number on that phone. And we will come. We don't care where. We don't care when. We will come." Clara closed her hand around the coin. It was heavy and it was warm. She was no longer a victim. She was no longer payment pending. She was no longer a person of interest. She was an ally. She was family. She had been through hell, but she had been seen. And she had been validated. The rage was gone. It had been burned away, replaced by a quiet, unbreakable, and very, very well-protected strength.